Go. Monica, we are back again on LinkedIn Live, and I should tell everyone watching this the way Monica entered the studio today. Could you just reenact what I heard from the outside? It was screams and shuddering and all kinds of activity outside of the door here.
Yeah.
Because you were being attacked.
Yes.
It was loud.
Yes.
Loud screaming.
It was a locust. And you know how big those are? And it like flew up out of a bush in like towards my face. And in a split second, I started to just kind of scream, but then like it touched my mouth. And then I was scared it was going to fly in my mouth, which made me scream louder.
Did it scare it away? Did it touch you? Did it actually touch you?
Yeah,
or was it so startled?
I was like it was bad. It went away though. It didn't actually go in my mouth, but that was like my worst fears all coming to fruition in that moment.
It was quite the startling entrance into the studio area here. I was frightened, except that it was Monica, and Monica is an expressive individual. If you don't know that yet, she's verbal.
Yeah,
she is loud.
Very loud.
She's expressive. Yeah. So
that's fun.
Okay, so it looks like our audio is kind of loud, and so I don't want to blow away and destroy everything. So.
Heidi.
This week, listen, it's not just Heidi. It's
Hartman.
The amazing Heidi Hartman. Yes. She is a beloved creature walking the planet here in the great state of Oklahoma. And she is just awesome. And so you got to spend time with her, and you've met her in person before. Listen, she's met my mom. My mom has met her. My mom, before we did the conference, we were doing our meetings. My mom joined with Heidi. Yeah. No, Heidi is the most hospitable, smart, thoughtful. I just love Heidi Hartman, as does every person who has met her. It's not an option. She's just fantastic. So
pretty awesome.
What in this one, because she's overseeing the Oklahoma HR conference, and really OKHR for the next year or two. You know how they do their presidential terms and all that. So what did you discover from Heidi in this one?
Yes. So Heidi and I talked about, we talked a little bit about what she does, which is amazing. Love her.
She has her own business. Yeah, she does a consulting. She does a lot of coaching, does some fun things. Yeah, shout out, go look at her website.
Yeah, and we talked about the virtual conference that OKHR did back in April.
It was April.
And just the wins and the fun that ensued around that conference. All kinds of things. One of the funnest things about it is that, and because I got to pop in this one.
It was like the first thing you came to even before you were on the team.
Yeah. And it was at the Oklahoma City Boathouse, which is a beautiful, amazing location, which got me thinking, because I've only been to really that was the only virtual conference aside from like what we do like in the studio, like that's purely virtual, that hybrid thing. Anyway, it was an amazing location, but I just wonder, it made me think, like, I wonder how important you think the location is when doing hybrid and virtual conferences.
It's a great question.
When it's hybrid, you've got to have
like a facility for people to be, but in the virtual, you don't need quite the floor space.
How important is your environment? Because that was amazing.
It was amazing. So as with everything, I mean, since our mission is shaping environments, everyone gets to contribute. We're big believers in the environment. Yeah. And so first of all, a lot of people don't know outside of Oklahoma City that we have Olympic training rowing in Oklahoma City. People, it's hard to grasp that our water sports are, an Olympics is going on. It's just starting. And so we have our Boathouse district, which was just a really innovative approach to how to use our river that used to be dried up. Is amazing facilities. It's multiple Olympic training grounds, but they also have meeting spaces. It's really just cool. Dynamic. And so you were right. That place, they actually do little symphony shows there. The way that room was built the acoustics were amazing, even though everything is glass and hard. They've designed it that way. Cool. So production wise, because it was designed to be really audio friendly, that was essential. What we have found in the different ways that we've done locations is we can make anything work. Like that's part of our shtick, like because we do location sponsors.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, and I literally just got a text from an event we're doing in 2022 that they've just secured a facility that's beyond belief, and the sponsors are paying for us to have this event there. So here's what makes for a great location. Somebody is paying you to be there, which, because it's the reverse, always you have to pay to be there. Second, the environment itself in the virtual setting is really helpful because the small audience that's there, you really do need their energy, and you do need them contributing. And so having a place that has that kind of vibe, it totally is. But I'll say this, the first one we did was in a in DFW in a office building south in like Fort Worth. And it was weirdly really fun. It was just but it was like desks everywhere. Like we pushed it together. They had like a little platform area, and it might've just been because it was back June. It was over a year ago. It was over a year ago we did our first virtual, and it weirdly felt connected then with the people who were there, because you were kind of like in this office building, and people was like this. It was a really interesting. So the Boathouse is just much more cool, much more fun. You just aesthetically, it was just so inspiring. But we really can and have made hotels work, like that office building. I did a small conference room that wasn't much bigger than this room. And so that's what's been amazing. When we go hybrid, when you have the audience itself, you know, then you have to be mindful of the interaction dynamic between both the virtual and the in-person. So long answer to your short question.
No, it's good.
But it's a great environment, the Boathouse District.
Yes, it was amazing. Okay, so another thing that we talked about is she mentioned how it was just wonderful that her and the team were able to just show up and kind of do what they needed to do in the conference, but they really didn't worry about anything technical or the production or the hosting, because you had that. And so it was pretty turnkey. And then she said, you know, even with the technical difficulties that they had with we had with the conference, that the audience loved it. Like it was such a good virtual conference experience for them.
Yeah. And hopefully you've heard over the course of this time, literally every virtual conference we did, audiences loved it. Like it was weirdly positive, and I'd love to take all the credit for it, but it wasn't. It was we were a contributor to it, but just the design of how things worked and the different players that were involved, really we had just great success every time, which we're really fortunate for. And so hybrid conferences, virtual conferences, they are powerfully impacting for audiences, and it doesn't diminish from it. Okay, so turnkey, can to can. Now, I love, remember that's what Karen at Baton Rouge said, can to can. We like that phrase. And that's Hawks Agency's approach. You know, like we just can just trust us and we'll just do it all. And that's what happened with them. Now they say that we had weekly meetings for probably almost 4 months. So it's not like, oh, it just all came together. Everybody just did their thing. There were lots of conversations. There was lots of good understanding. So even in designing that, an offline conference or an online conference, the details are equal, if not more, in the online. So when we go hybrid, the details are just nutso on both sides of it. So yes, we did that. The technical, Monica, I don't know why you got to stab me in the heart right here on camera. Almost literally every conference, there's our technical challenge. There's something because technology involved. In this one in particularly, I remember it because we had a mix of on-location keynote speakers. We had 2 streaming keynote speakers on 2 different days from 2 different locations. There was literally our keynote speaker in Texas had a hurricane the night before, and there was still, and that's what's so important to have professional keynote speakers. She literally the night before we were doing our live streaming, pre-recorded her keynote. So if her technology went down, she pre-recorded, sent it to us so we could have a pre-recorded version of it. I just loved her professionalism and so smart. Our first keynote did not. That's where we had some technical difficulties. it went out.
Yeah.
And so the good news with technology is there's always a remedy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have backups in place and you've thought through kind of if this happens, and because everything has happened to us,
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of got all the backups that are like, okay, well, when this happens, here's what we do. If this goes down, here's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we had all those things, phone numbers to call, to other technologies to have for service. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the essential. When you're hosting these, it's just knowing there's going to be problems, being able to not freak out when the problems happen, and then having a couple backup solutions, or at least a backup for every different kind of scenario that can take place.
Yeah.
But that's why my original structure that I love the best is all keynotes live on location, all sessions pre-recorded,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just have to control our one little room that has all the internet access, which works the best.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, live and learn.
I'm sure everybody that's been an audience member of a virtual or a hybrid has been like, technical problems are always true. Tough, but you can have fun with them even. We had fun with ours,
mm-hmm.
and it's not fun in the moment.
No.
I hate that stuff.
No. I happen to have been there when that happened.
No, it was so painful.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to tell any more stories, Monica?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Last question here. They mentioned she mentioned, and we briefly talked about a legal panel that they had, where, wait, am I mixing two things up?
No, you're not. You think you are, but you're not. Go ahead and keep talking.
Wait a minute. Wait. No, I'm confused.
Let's see.
I'm trying to remember. I think there was a legal panel.
I mean, it's possible you are.
And there was a mixologist.
Yes.
And somehow, and who was a sponsor, a vendor.
Yes.
And, or ish, something.
Yeah. You should go back and watch your conversation with Heidi.
Stop. All these things
came together.
Kind of came together, and it helped create kind of a fun moment in the conference, which got me thinking about how people can spruce up the conference with some creativity,
spice it up,
whether it be through a sponsor or through people just like the panel, things like that, because it was planned. It wasn't like some spontaneous thing. Like
no. It was definitely planned. And here's why you mixed up the mixologist and the legal panel, because it was happy legal hour.
Okay.
And so what happened was,
in my mind, I was like, this doesn't make sense. But
yes.
Does it?
Well, here's what happened. We had on location, and so I probably should say their name, Crow and Dunlevy, who are like the premier sponsors of the OKHR conference. They have been offline, they were online, and they found great value. So for sponsors, exhibitors, there's more value from a virtual scenario than there is on, and the legal panel, the legal Crow and Dunlevy found that out. So they sponsored right before our pitch was this. We're getting ready to listen to lawyers talk for an hour. We should all have something to drink before then.
Oh my
and
God.
So we had a mixologist. You were not there for this.
No.
We had a mixologist who came from a local bar here in Oklahoma City. He came over, set up a table, and literally right before the panel, he had showed how to make like a couple specialty drinks. It's like a 15-minute window. And sometimes in these virtual conferences, they'll pre-record some different activities. We did it live. And it was a lot of fun. So it was like, and everybody knew beforehand, hey, have these things, if you want to play along, have these elements ready. And so they did alcoholic ones and non-alcoholic ones on how to do it for everybody to participate. And while we were there, we did it. And then we just shifted right over to the legal panel, which, Monica, this was a revelation to me. I got to host this panel. It was literally an hour long of like 4 different lawyers. It was hilariously fun.
Really?
It was the weirdest.
Thought?
It was the weirdest, unexpected. Like a bunch of HR conferences are filled with legal. Blah. And now, listen, I love the lawyers. I've got some good friends who are lawyers, and I love the lawyers, but they're not always the most engaging of the conference. And so we thought the funny idea was have people have some drinks before they had to listen to them, and that'd make it better. And I don't know if it did, but it was really fabulous. So I was shocked how enjoyable a panel was. We did pre-questions, we did questions live on the spot. they having, again, I'm a fan of the host, like having, and I'm a fan of me hosting things. So I'm like, I like talking to people and I can engage it. So it turned out really pretty fun and was great. So what was your question? Those mixology.
Bringing
was it about
creativity into, like, what are the limits?
I think it's almost unlimited. And honestly, what I love about the virtual and the hybrid is you can pre-record stuff.
Yeah.
So you can go out and about, like we're right down by the Whitewater place. So you can get all the things like pre-recorded. But this live, which is a riskier deal.
Yeah.
It has that element of the unknown. So while the guy's talking and drinking, like, so there's elements that people liked watching that you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen. And it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so the same is true with the live panel, because a lot of the conversations, controversial stuff.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of issues in the workplace that are all societal related, whether it's gender stuff, whether it's marijuana stuff, CBD stuff, the whole COVID and health, like everything is intense. And so able to bring a lightheartedness and yet informative approach was shockingly excellent. And I attribute that to the great relationship, honestly, that OKHR has with that firm, because they've been sponsoring and kind of partnered with them forever. And it kind of showed out in that virtual environment. It was a lot of fun. Listen, if you're a lawyer, let me reiterate, we love lawyers. Thanks for being one. Because then we don't have to be one.
Yes. Amen.
Okay, so Monica, what are you learning? Now you've had multiples of these, and they're probably starting to feel kind of similar, but this is your whole onboarding, learn about Hawks Agency, learn about our history, getting ready to go to the future of hybrid conferences. What's something you're seeing consistently or feeling like, okay, I'm a part of this team now, and here's what's true of us?
I think, because you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
And in the meantime of doing these interviews, I'm also working on our guide and putting that together. And so I definitely have the intentionality and creativity on my mind. And those two things, just the importance.
Have you seen those to be true? That's interesting, because we're talking about the guide she's referring to as our hybrid, please don't host sucky hybrid conferences guide. It's coming out in just a few weeks. But so being intentional, being creative are some of our differentials. What have you seen with that?
I think with everyone I've talked to who has hosted a hybrid or virtual conference, you hear that if the audience liked it, if they have said the audience loved it, they also talked about how they were intentional about being creative. And I think that is so key. And we help bring that to the table and incite that for sure. And so if somebody already is like thinking that way, it's just double, power. Yeah, we're definitely a catalyst, instigators for those things, but it's a group effort. All the conversations that happen that evolve an idea to a creative, intentional idea. So hopefully if you're putting together something in the future, be creative, be intentional. Those are definitely the true elements that will cause it to stand apart. And if you've had any other great insights, go ahead and list it here and let people know how you're doing fantastic virtual hybrid conferences now and in the future. Anything else, Monica? That's it.
What a great time to connect again, learn so much. I'm always grateful that you're getting to talk to our people. I mean, Heidi Hartman, there's just nobody better. Just nobody better. All right, we'll see you guys next week. We're going to do this again next week, right? All right. Next Tuesday, you can listen to Monica. And then next Thursday, we'll be back here discussing whatever she learns about.